Okay, this is the character for my game that I've been working on and off for the last couple of weeks. And I wanted to show you a few things about both this character and where I'm at with the game that I'm working on. Specifically focusing on the character, because that's what I've been doing for the last few weeks. Like I said, I'm going to try and get through this quickly because I am too lazy to edit this video. There's a lot to show. There's a lot more to do, but there's a lot to show right now. So here we are in Godot with the Kakapo. Yo. Oh, I'm in isometric view. That's why. So here's the Kakapo character. You can see it's highly stylized. I think I'm referring to the Kakapo as an it. I don't know what gender it is. You can probably pick. I don't think it has a gender. You tell me. You tell me. There's a lot of, for me at least, kind of advanced techniques going on. Again, advanced for me. Your mileage may vary. Maybe this is simple stuff to you, but I'm doing interesting things like the feathers around the eyes. I have custom bent normals to kind of sell this socket shape a bit more, right? So the tips of these feathers kind of blend in more to this eye socket, which I think looks really nice. I made the feathers quote unquote game ready, putting that in quotes because there's always ways to make this more optimal, right? I can make these textures smaller. I'm doing some, it's kind of optimized. Give me a little bit of credit. Right, I'm doing alpha scissor blending for these cards, and they are cards, meaning these are planes where I'm just rendering a texture as opposed to some super complicated geometry, which this would have to be pretty complicated, especially with, this is a pretty complicated shape, right? There's a lot of transparency. Getting this shape, could be done with polygons and triangles, but I am not doing that. And you can see this is pretty high resolution. So again, I could optimize it more for sure. Anyways, we're moving on. We're not taking a long time talking about feathers. Otherwise, this is going to be a 30-minute video. So let me show you the final, I was going to say product. I sound like the McDonald's CEO. I just love this product. Look at this product. Moving on, I got quite a few animations. So I'm using an animation tree. Don't have a ton of experience with this. I have heard horror stories about people trying to use animation state machines. Could be a skill issue. I'm just using an animation tree with some two-dimensional blend spaces, some blend 2Ds, some one-shots. Will this turn into a ball of spaghetti if there's a bunch of animations and conditional logic? Would a state machine actually be better for that? Yes, you're right. You are right about that. But for now, this is how it is set up. So we have a 2D animation tree, or a 2D blend space rather, to shift between idling and walking. Ooh, walking. Let's get a sense of what that looks like. Let's see. All right. And we're walking, and we're walking. Oop, a little fast, a little too slow, a little fast. Boom. There's the walk. I can transition somewhat seamlessly. It's not perfectly seamless into a run. Really, in-game, this blend's going to be pretty quick, right? Am I planning on supporting controllers where we can get more fine-grained transitions from walking to running? I don't know. Maybe it's set up to kind of support that. So here's running. Right? There's the run. I can also walk backwards, which looks like this. We're walking backwards. And you guessed it, that is just the walk animation played in reverse. Look at all the time we're saving. So that's a 2D blend space. I'm also feeding this blend space into this weird blend 2. because I'm trying to undo some of the nonsense I did. So originally you see these feathers are moving a lot. This looks weird to me. I'm doing this to prevent the feathers from clipping into the body too much. But I'd rather have the clipping than whatever this is. You know, you as the controller of this character are going to be seeing the bird booty. You're going to be viewing it from the back. You're not going to be seeing it from the front, but I don't know. It still feels weird to me. I do like that there's kind of these rings of feathers that you can control semi-independently and get this. What would this be? Secondary motion, I think is the animation term. You can see, speaking of secondary motion or secondary movement, we got a little bit of flapping going on with the leather aviator cap, which has this hook on it, which, speaking of the hook, what is going on? Why is this bird wearing some weird cap with a hook on it? Great question. The reason for that is we bounce over to Blender, where this was actually created. I'll get to it. Let me just show you the Kakapo model since we're here. Right, so we got a rig. For me, I don't know. It gets the job done. Nothing crazy, but you can see I have these rings where I can control the feathers. I have a body bone. I've got the head bone where I'm limiting the amount of motion you can get, and I've got these bone constraints set up to get that procedural secondary motion, which I think is kind of cool, right? Moving the head moves some of the other bones, which I think that looks pretty cool, right? There's some clipping going on, which isn't great. There's ways around it, for sure. But I can rotate the hook. And then, yeah, animating so secondary motion on the flaps. Got the feet, talons, claws. Oh my. Why are you... Individual origins, there we go. Boom, rotating the talons. Are these the talons? Is this a talon? Or is this the talon? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments what you think. The other thing is I'm hiding the leg feathers because getting the leg feathers to animate properly was a PETA. It's pain. It was a pain right there. I'm losing my mind. So I'll just show you an example of why I'm hiding the leg feathers. If I go to the walk animation, which by the way, if you're animating in Blender, make sure you save fake user. Save this. Do this. There are scenarios where you can lose your hard work the next time you open the file. There's ways around it, but just save it as a fake user and then you won't lose it. So yeah, you see the leg feathers. That doesn't look good. So in software engineering, there's a concept known as the ostrich algorithm, which is basically ignoring a problem or hiding it in the sand, which is what I'm doing. I'm hiding the feathers. So yeah, you see there's a lot of plumage to get around that clipping, and it's cool that, you know, in Godot I can kind of work around it without having to completely redo the animation. Anyways, that's the Kakapo. Why does the Kakapo have a hook on their head? The reason for that is this is a flightless bird. Kakapo, also known as the owl parrot, it's a species of large nocturnal ground-dwelling parrots. They're really weird birds. I say that as if I'm some kind of authority in birds who knows enough to distinguish between the normal ones and the weird ones. I'm not. It's just it's a weird bird. I don't know. It can't fly, which was a requirement for my game, which is about moving on these platforms via zip lines, which looks a little bit like this. So this is kind of the final product. Yeah, here we go. So you move around these platforms on zip lines. This is just a placeholder character that I made for another project that I gave up on, which, yeah, whatever. This is an astronaut character I made, which is kind of the same scale as the Kakapo. So they move around on zip lines with the hooks on their heads. And this is built with geometry nodes. So if I hide the final result and I go back to this version and we bounce over to geometry nodes, it's all configurable. And importantly, this is symmetrical. So you see this big platform here is reflected on the opposite side. The idea here is, you know, let's say I have two teams. This is going to be a multiplayer game. There's going to be two teams, either 1v1, maybe 3v3. I don't know. It's going to take some prototyping, but they'll spawn on, you know, analogous sides of the map. So one team spawns here, one team spawns here. And by making this symmetrical, I can, in theory, kind of balance around the amount of resources each side gets. So I can spawn the same thing on this platform as this platform, and I'm saving, you know, IDs of all of these platforms, so it's easy enough in code on Godot's end to map or you know, fetch this platform, and it's analog. I'm just going to say analog 100 times. Being geometry nodes is randomized. I can get whatever I want. I can find whichever design I want. I can customize the minimum face area if I don't want super tiny platforms. I can customize the amount of space between platforms. And when I get weird behavior where scaling is proportional to the size of the shape, so they don't scale linearly, or they don't appear to, right? Big gap here, small gap here. I have the curve where I can tweak it a little bit and say, hey, no, I want to increase the amount of space around the larger platforms. I was pretty proud of this. I think this is a pretty elegant solution. Elegant meaning I don't know the math to guarantee that the scaling is actually linear. Somebody's going to say in the comments, there's a way to scale uniformly, scale faces uniformly. I'm using that. I'm doing a uniform scale. It doesn't behave the way I would expect it to. So yeah, we got a way to procedurally generate the map that the Kakapo will be moving around on via these zip lines. So just bouncing back to the animations. I think I showed most of them, but there's a few others I haven't shown yet, right? There's this jumping one shot, which if I get rid of the root motion, you can see what it actually looks like. Boom. Nice little jump. Boing. Or to kind of break up some of the monotony of the idle animation, I've got this little cleaning animation, which I think is pretty cute. And then not plugged into the animation tree yet is this dangle animation, which, yes, again, there's some clipping going on. So imagine this character is on one of those zip lines. We get this little dangle animation, which is pretty nice, I think. So that is my Kakapo character. Oh, one thing I didn't show you. So the feathers. These are hand painted in Photoshop. Let me hide the bones real quick. Pretty proud of this. There were a lot of different variations that I made, so I did quite a bit of iterating on the feathers themselves. So if we look at one of these feathers and you see there's two different materials using the same exact texture to get a little bit of that hue variation. And then this is just recreated. All right, calm down. This is recreated in Godot, right? A little bit of hue shifting going on just to break up the monotony a bit. Because again, it is the exact same texture over and over again. If I take a look at this folder, you can see just how many flavors of this texture there are. There's this super cartoony version. Oop, let me look at the one where I'm not shifting the hue a lot. Oh, I clicked on the same one again. Well, whatever. I don't know why it's that color. Probably because I'm shifting the hue. There's this version, which is super cartoony, right? I don't think that looks great. So back to the drawing board, iterated a bit more. I wanted to see, okay, what does it look like if I, try and make it super realistic, quote unquote realistic. No, it's not realistic, but it's more detailed for sure, which doesn't look bad. You lose all that fidelity though when you zoom out, so it's like, okay, that's a lot of wasted detail. What are you doing? And then there's a few other versions. What if I explore a bit more transparency, right? Might as well. It's an image, so we can push the transparency quite a bit, especially with the alpha scissoring that I'm doing in Godot to get the transparency. That sounds weird, but if you don't know what alpha scissoring is, look it up. That was sassy. If you don't know what it is, look it up. I don't have time to tell you. I'm sorry. Yeah, that was rude. Or there's, this version, which looks a little bit more like a real kakapo feather. There's a bit of brown in there, right? But again, that's quite a bit of detail that's going to be lost. So this was the sweet spot, at least for now. So that is my kakapo. I think I showed you all the things that I wanted to show you. I'm pretty proud of this, especially because I wrote a script to replace the actual geometry of these feathers with these image planes, so I didn't have to do it manually again. I literally just select the image plane I want to duplicate, and then I selected all the actual feathers, which was real geometry, which was a few hundred triangles, and with the click of a button, I was able to replace all of the real geometry with the feather cards in the exact position I needed them in. So yeah, that is my kakapo character. I'm excited to actually get the animations wired up to a character controller, and get the map imported and start zipping around. All right, I don't know where to end it. Yep, that's a good spot. All right. Editor Miller here. So I realized there's one crucial thing about this character that I didn't show you, which I can't believe I missed, because it's fundamental for your understanding of how this character works. And that is what this bird looks like without clothes on. Look at that. That's a naked bird right there.